Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and never wrong, Nick Bull.
Hello, one and all. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. Of course, I am your host, never wrong, Nick Bull. And joining me, as always, is my co-host, the co-tag team champs of the For Frequency's Sake Network. He is the one. He is the only. He is the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing this week?
Man, I'm feeling pretty good. We're been a good weekend. Went out to Wildwood last night. Didn't stay for the whole show, but that's because I was having some back issues. Those high chairs without backs are rough on me. But been a good weekend. It's been good so far, and I'm excited because I'm here. You're here. We're doing another great show.
Absolutely. And we got a guest this week we've been wanting to get on for some time. I know we say that every once in a while, but this is a guy I think I might have elbowed you at an event like, hey, we got to get this guy on. And I'm glad we have him here. I know he's got some stories to tell. And I'm looking forward to hearing about how he got into the business and what he loves about wrestling. Let's go ahead and welcome him in, CZ.
Yeah, let's welcome in Shain Boucher, the Cajun Kid.
The Cajun Kid, Shain Boucher, is joining us here in studio. We're doing great, man. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm alive.
It's great to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to go ahead and just steal Nick's thunder. He usually asks the first question, but I'm going to steal it from him this time and just ask, why pro wrestling? What got you hooked?
It's a good question. There's like a specific moment in time where I was like, where I decided to be a wrestler. It sounds so silly now, but like I started watching wrestling at like 8 or 9, maybe a little older. And I went to a live event show when I was like 12. And CM Punk was the champion around that time. And I bought one of those like fake WWE titles, and he was a champ. So he like got on the stage and like did like he this classic where he would hold it and do this one, and like everybody knows he does it. I know he does it, but like we just did it at the same time, and for some reason I was like, oh yeah, that's sick. I want to do that. So and then ever since I after that I got a like backyard stuff. I never had a whole lot of friends, so I was just in the backyard by myself pretty much. But I found a way to get a ring, and then I was in the yard just wrestling in my backyard by myself on crash pads and mattresses or whatever I really had the chance to jump off of, I would. So and then after that I found there was like a local indie that came around to my town once in a while, and my friend took me to it, and I met some guys there. A guy by the name of Action Jackson. I met him there, and then I got his number and everything because I was asking about training. And then he texted me. How old was I? I was like 14, 15 here. He texted me. He asked me, he's like, do you want to train this weekend? I said, Grandma, he wants me to come up there and train and wrestle. And I was like, it's everything I do in the backyard already. So like, but at least this is safer, And then, but it was in Little Rock, and I lived in West Monroe, Louisiana. So it's about a 3.5-hour drive, and I'm 14. I don't have a car. So she, bless her heart, she drove me all the way up to Little Rock on Friday, and then I stayed at his house. She obviously went home, and then on Saturday we went up and we trained a little bit, and he kind of taught me how to fall, how to hit the ropes and do all the basic kind of stuff. And then it was just so exciting. I was so happy. And then my grandma came back on Sunday and picked me up. And she's like, how was it? And I'm like, unfortunately for you, I will be doing this for the rest of my life. So for every weekend, for every weekend for about a year, 2 years until I got my own car. She had to drive me every weekend, and she did every weekend to Little Rock, Arkansas. And then wherever we were going after that, I would just ride with them. But every weekend, my grandma took me 3.5 hours to Arkansas, and I will never forget that. I hope I'm able to pass that on to my kids. I'll drive them wherever they want to go. So, but yeah, after that, it was pretty much off to the races. There was no turning back now. So, and here we are.
What a great intro into the business.
Oh yeah, I think it's honestly, it was the best intro to the business I think you can get, because I was just training, and I had already paid for Black and Brave to come up here and train. So I wasn't really looking for anything. Like, I wasn't expecting to get booked. I wasn't expecting to do anything. I would go to Little Rock on Saturday. I would train, and then, I would watch the show. I would help out. I would do security. I would do anything they needed me to do. I would do it. And then along with that, he wrestled at this place. It was called Main Event Pro Wrestling at the time. They don't run anymore, and they're from Texas though. They kind of went down the I-20 interstate with a couple cities. They would do it, and that's the independent promotion that I saw originally. But then I started helping out there and just setting the ring up, and with the idea that once I got done with Black and Brave, all these places would book me. So as I was training with him, I never expected anything, which was, I think, the best way to come into it. Was like I didn't, I wasn't like, oh, why aren't they putting me on the show, or I'm better than this guy. I had none of that, because that wasn't where I was at the time. So I truly didn't expect to do anything until after I finished Black and Brave. I did get like one match, actually. I got a battle royal, and the promoter saw us doing like flips on the crash pad before the show, and he saw me do it. And he's like, "Do you want to do that during the show? You'd be number 3." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I was like 16, so I like clothesline. He's like, "Yeah, you'll clothesline this guy, and then you'll clothesline the next guy, and then you just do your flip, and he'll move, and then you like land on your feet and roll, and then he'll just toss you out." And I was like, "Oh yeah, perfect. That would be awesome." My grandma and my grandpa were here for this, and it was great. I'm glad they got to see it. So I so nervous. I didn't have any theme music. They made me come out to AC/DC, which was I love AC/DC, but I hate AC/DC as well. So it was very but like the music hits, and they're like, go, go, go. So I run out there, and then I like clothesline the guy, and then I clothesline the guy, and then I went up to do the flip, and I was like, all right, land on your feet. But I was just so excited. I just went all the way through, and I landed on my face very hard. And everybody like, oh, and I was just like, oh, I messed it up, but I was so excited. I didn't even feel it, man. I was so excited. Then he picked me up and threw me out, and I got to the back, and everyone was like, that was awesome. And I was like, dude, I know I'm really good, huh? It was awful. I'm awful, so like, but after that, my grandma, she was so happy. My grandpa was so happy. Everybody thought I did so great. And then I actually found that footage probably a year or two ago, and I watched it, and I went, oh, I'm so bad. I was so bad. I had no clue what I was doing, but I was just happy to be there, which was fun. So, but if you'd have told 14, 15-year-old me that 16-year-old was doing that day, they wouldn't have believed you, or they'd have been like, yeah, probably.
I mean, how cool as a 14-year-old you are getting pretty much kind of like on the job training. And you're cutting your teeth as a 14-year-old. As a 14-year-old, I worried I'd be home in time to watch Raw. And here you are helping set up rings and learning on the job. How much did that further you for when you came to Black and Brave and started training? Like, how much did that get you ready for it?
I'm a pretty athletic dude already. I played sports my whole life. So athletically, I would have been probably in the same place anyways, whether I had did it or not. I think mentally, it helped me more than some of my counterparts, where I was kind of already used to, eating crap sandwiches and, kind of just biting the bullet and just doing what you got to do and not really expecting anything to happen for me and just trying to work as hard as I can to make something happen. Knowing that whenever I was, done with this training, it would be, then it's off to the races. It's not off to the races until I'm done with this Black and Brave training. That was always my mentality. So I do think it put me a step ahead mentally. And I can kind of prove that in a weird way. You guys, y'all may not remember him. His name was Sage Kanan. He was a Black and Brave graduate, real great friend of mine. We're best friends. And he came in and, he had a blast doing it. And at the end of it just the politics and stuff, he didn't like it. He couldn't deal with it. So then he stopped wrestling, and he's way happier now, and I love him to death. He has a little girl now, and it's awesome. I just saw him, went to his wedding and everything, and he's way happier. But because he didn't have all that stuff that I had before, where I had to mentally deal with this stuff and dealing with people disrespecting me and, kind of having to take these things, he wasn't as prepared for it. So when it happened to him, he was like, oh, I don't really like that. So, he just kind of was like, I'm not going to deal with that. And he left. And I'm still here. So, and there's a lot of people that are like that. They get to the dance and then they don't realize, or they realize they don't like dancing. So, it's kind of part of it.
So I want to ask you, Louisiana, that's a little bit of a trip from to come up here to the Quad Cities. Was Black and Brave your first choice? What
yes.
drew you up here?
Well, so it was my first choice. I did look like I was looking around. I was going to go to Ring of Honor school originally, but that was before Black and Brave really got announced. I was going to go to Ring of Honor, and then I was going to go to WWA4 in Atlanta. And I had this idea that I was just going to live out of my truck. I had a Tacoma, and I was going to put like a camper shell on it, and just put they had these bed setups where you put your bed in it and have the shelves on the side of it, and it'd be real cramped. But that was my plan. I was going to do that. And then probably about 3 or 4 weeks of really looking into wrestling schools. And I had already determined that I was doing the WWA4 truck idea. Black and Brave got announced, and I was like, at the time, I'm pretty sure he was everybody's favorite wrestler at the time. But Seth Rollins was my guy. I thought he was the coolest. I've been watching him since he was in Ring of Honor. So I watched him all the time. So as soon as that got announced, I was like, oh no, I'm going to be going there. And then I showed my grandpa about it. And then he thought Davenport was Chicago, a big city and everything. He's like, the big cities are dangerous, and it's gonna be cold up there, and you're not gonna be used to being cold and everything. So to prove him wrong, I wore shorts and a t-shirt no matter what every time of year. And I'll be like, look, I'm used to the cold. I'll be all right, and I'm trying to convince him that I'll be good, But yeah, once it got announced, I was pretty much – I tried to go earlier. I tried to go when I was 16, and they said no. They said I had to be 18, and I was pretty upset because I graduated high school early at 16 so I could go to Black and Brave. But then they wouldn't take it, so I had to wait.
I love hearing that. So you turn 18. You are set on living out of the back of your truck. And instead, you get to the Quad Cities. What's your first impression of not only the Black and Brave Wrestling School, but coming from Louisiana to the middle of the Midwest?
So this sounds very weird, but the Quad Cities and where I'm from in Louisiana are almost identical except for the weather. So down in Louisiana, I'm from West Monroe, Louisiana. It's the Twin Cities. So we have West Monroe and we have Monroe, and it's the same setup. The river, the bridges, the whole deal. The way you get into Walmart up here in Moline, it's the same type of road where you got to go around a little bit. It looks identical. So like when I got here, I was like, wow, this is exactly what I'm kind of used to. I was living inside of the the city part of the import area or the Moline area, so I was closer to everything because in West Monroe we had your Walmart and your Waffle House or whatever, and then now I just live in an apartment in the middle of all of it. So It really so by the time November came around and it was snow on the ground and it was negative 25 degrees, I was not very happy about that. My grandpa was very much right. The cold weather was not for me. It's still not for me. It's 50 degrees outside. I got my Drake jacket on. This is a duck hunt jacket. It's meant for cold weather. I'm freezing. I'm in my own house. I'm freezing. So I'm not a big fan of the cold weather. I didn't have a car that was ready for the cold weather. So I got stuck and, I had to dig and all that kind of stuff. And it's not my favorite. But as far as like acclimating to the whole place, it wasn't too bad. I really enjoyed it, and I really liked the Quad Cities at the time. So
that first snowfall, a bit of a culture shock coming
I
up
had
from the
never
south.
seen snow up to that point my whole life, and I had traveled a lot, like being like 14, like, and like my grandma was taking me everywhere. When I got a car, I was going everywhere. But like I just, whenever I was in those snowy areas, I guess it just wasn't snowing, you know. And I just got lucky and never saw. I just had never seen it my whole life. And then I got here and I was like, oh wow, it's so magical and beautiful. And then I stepped outside and I was like, oh, it's cold. I'm like, and then, you know, you go outside and you're like, I'm gonna do a snow angel, and you lay on the ground, and now you're not just cold, you're wet. So I'm like, oh, I didn't know you got wet when you did that. I didn't know, like, and then I'm getting, you know, then I get sick, you know, and then I go inside. I'm like, oh, I've never been sick like this. And then oh no, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I would be more than happy to live here for the rest of my life if it wasn't for the snow. So.
Hey, I've lived here all my life, and I hate it too. So I know exactly what you mean.
So talk about. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
I was just gonna say, Shane, I love the accent. I love the accent. I absolutely love it. Do other people comment on your accent? You know, since you're in the Midwest and kind of a long way from home.
It's one of the things that kind of gets commented on the most. You know, my boys, they bust my balls or whatever about it. Because they say sometimes they like, if I'm like just talking and like normal, like it's kind of, you can understand me, you know, and like the accent kind of fades away. I've been up here for a while, so it's not as thick as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But when I start getting like really excited or something like that, they're like, we can't understand anything you say, you know, like you just start mumbling, or you start, you know. And I have a weird mix. Like I'm from, like I said, I'm from West Monroe, and that's more of like redneck territory, right? But I also spend a lot of my time down in like Lafayette, Louisiana, where it's thick Cajun, you know. So I have like a mixture between that and then like both of those, and then like a little bit of a northern accent, I guess. Because when I come up here, you know, everybody's like, we can't understand you. And then when I go home, they're like, you sound like a Yankee, you know. And I'm like, what is it, man? Like, you just can't win. So then if I go home for like 2 weeks, I come back up here, you ain't understanding nothing I say for about 2 weeks. I mean, you won't hear nothing. And then I'll start like, you know, calming down and, you know, getting that normal accent, I suppose, down. But I try to keep it around. I try to do my best not to get too Yankee, you know. I like my accent. So.
Oh, I think it's cool, man. I love it.
So coming out of the Black and Brave, I want to hear what your thoughts are going into your first match after training. What's your mindset? What was that first match like for you?
I might not have a different answer than most people, but I always feel like I have a different answer than most people. The first place I ever wrestled right after Black and Brave, it was a place called SCWPro in Indianapolis. They were pretty much one of those promotions where like you show up, they'll put you on. You're not getting paid, but they'll put you on no matter what. Anybody that showed up, whether it was, I mean, it could be a 45-man battle royal or a scramble or whatever, but you were doing something. So I showed up and I wrestled Jared Thumb and a guy named Gary Gravy. I don't know if y'all remember him. Brady McBride.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was called Gary Gravy in class. And then he switched his name to like Brady McBride or whatever, but he was also Green Man for a while there too. But I wrestled those two in a triple threat. And I don't know, like I wasn't really nervous. I had been waiting for this for so long. I don't see why I would be nervous, you know, like, and if anything, that's one of the crowds you should be nervous in front of, because they don't care. They don't care about nothing. There could be 1,000 people there. Nobody's cheering. They're all sitting on their hands. They've seen everything. It was just a place to practice pretty much. But I didn't have any music, no AC/DC this time, absolutely no music at all. So
no AC/DC,
no AC/DC, no nothing, no Cajun music, nothing. I went out to nothing. So with all that, I just wasn't nervous. Like I said, I just waited my whole life to do this, and I had never wanted anything else. So I didn't see a point of being nervous, because this is what all this has been building up to this whole time. It's off to the races at this point, you know. So the first one I wasn't nervous. After that, I would get nervous, just because I didn't want to let my opponent down. I didn't want them to think I was bad. I didn't want them to, kind of have this match with me and then be like, he's not that good, and then go tell everybody else that I'm not that good, And I probably had plenty of those, but that's always been my biggest thing. No matter, I want the fans to enjoy it, but as a personal level, I just don't want to disappoint my opponent. I want it to be everything they thought it was going to be, and I want them to think that I'm good. And that's just kind of what's always made me nervous. And also, can I do the stuff that I've just said that I can do to this person? If I, tell them I'm going to do this move, and this move, and I go out there and I'm getting I'm tired, I'm blown up or whatever, am I going to be able to do these things physically that I say I'm able to do, and not mess it up? And then being nervous about that stuff is what makes me get jittery and stuff. But once I'm out there, it's nothing. I don't get nervous. Especially at this point, I've been doing it this is my 7th year after graduating Black and Brave. I don't even really count anything I did before, but this is my 7th year. So at this point, I feel like I get, of course I feel like I got it, but I'm sure I'll say that to myself in 7 more years and be like, that 7-year guy didn't know anything,
Right.
The same way that I look back at the last 7-year guy and he didn't know anything. But yeah, once I'm out there, I'm good, man. I just don't want to I just never want to let down my opponent. So, that's just one of my biggest things.
And, once you get out there, it's kind of like a switch flips for a lot of people from what I've been told, where you may be nervous in the back, but as soon as you get out there in front of the crowd and the crowd is cheering you on or booing you, depending on which side of the fence you fall on, that switch just flips and you're on.
I've never had that. It's never been a thing for me, and I've always felt like maybe I'm doing something wrong because it's not a thing for me. I don't just flip a switch. I am who I am. I'm nothing about me in the ring normally changes that drastically from me, in real life. If I'm a heel, I'm like that a lot, and 90% of the time in my life, most people, you either love me or you hate me, and it's one of those things. But I'm not necessarily doing anything different as a heel than I would be doing in my normal day-to-day life. And as a babyface, I'm not doing anything different. I'm not treating anybody any different. My character, I guess you would say, I just don't change that much. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'm just a completely different person out there. It's just never been a thing for me. And like I said, I've always felt like maybe, am I doing something wrong? Am I not, committing to it enough? But it's worked, when I go out there, the point gets across. I guess I just know how to tap into, myself and how I feel, if I'm supposed to be a bad guy, I know what it's like to be, an asshole. If I am supposed to be a good guy, I know I'm a Southern boy. I know how to treat people right, so it's just never been a thing for me.
I definitely think what sets you apart, from what makes your match special, aside from everybody else, is your athleticism really comes through. When you fly, it's graceful. It looks like you're meant to fly. Your movement's fluid. I think your athleticism is top notch, and you look. This isn't a knock. It looks like you're not even trying in there because you're smooth.
I feel that way sometimes.
You're smooth. It doesn't look. It's not a knock. It's just wow. It's really impressive to watch because it looks like you're not trying. It's so smooth.
I feel that way sometimes in a bad way where I go, dang, it kind of looks like I'm not trying that hard. Should I be trying harder?
But I don't. It's not.
Am I not being dramatic enough? Am I not being showman enough? Because it just looks so nonchalant sometimes, and that's one of those things where I go, I need to do more. So every time I go out, I try to be not nonchalant, if you will, or I have to make it look like I'm trying, even if I'm not. That sounds so egotistical too. I hate that. But yeah, no, I feel that same way a lot. It's one of those things I'm constantly working on it.
I'd be remiss to say your elbow drop is very Shawn Michaels-esque. And
it's my guy.
Is that your guy? Is that
That's
who
the
you
guy.
pattern? It is. I think. Is
So,
that your
like,
guy? And is that who you pattern yourself after? And if
I-
it's not, I was going to ask if it's not Shawn Michaels, then who is it?
I kind of have a couple of guys that I like kind of mix together. I would say as far as like if you were to say like mannerisms, I guess, and like work rate, if you know that's the thing, or like just how I like to put my stuff together is very Shawn Michaels. Like I always enjoyed watching them, and in my head, if it works, don't get rid of it. So and I'm sure a lot of people work that same way too, but I always like the stuff that Shawn did when he was kind of in between everything. Like the moves are cool, you know, and like the forearm and the kip up and the elbow, awesome, you know. But the way he would just play with the fans, that's one of my favorite things to do, just playing with the fans, like getting them into it, just doing that, you know. I always just call it carny stuff, you know, like when you go to, like, if you're at a fair, you know, like what would they like, you know, they don't like wrestling, but what would they like, what would they cheer, you know, and if it works for them, it'll probably work for everybody else. And just Shawn always did stuff like that. And he was just always trying to figure out how to get that reaction. And then but as far as moves, I have stolen everything from Trevor Lee. I think he's awesome. I think he is one of the best. I not grew up, I guess, but like grew up in the business watching him. Like when I was 18 and I moved here, and we're going to AAW every week and help set up and trying to get on the show, you know. And Trevor Lee's there and he's doing his thing and he's having the best matches on the show and he's going on the mic and he's talking his stuff, you know, and it's funny and he's, you know, doing whatever he's got to do to get some kind of a reaction from these people. It was just always so entertaining. I love watching Trevor Lee stuff. And then like when he got signed like to WWE, I was so excited. And then they changed his name and it made us very upset. But me and all my boys, you know, we all do Trevor Lee stuff pretty much. With the Hay Keepers, you know, we did the peace signs, Trevor Lee. You know, we do the apron penalty kicks, that's Trevor Lee. You know, like I've always thought he was so good, and I just wanted to be kind of just like him when I came in. I feel like everybody has that like somewhat of a switch where they go from like watching WWE, you know, where you go, oh, I want to be just like Shawn Michaels, or I want to be just like Seth Rollins. And then you start wrestling, and then you find that guy that's doing the same level as you, where you go, if I can be that good, I'll make it, you know, like, and Trevor Lee was that guy for me. I just always, like I said, I just always thought he was so good. Yeah. But so like I do a lot of his moves. I do a lot of ACH's moves sometimes. I try to stay away from Will Ospreay moves. He's awesome, but everybody and their mama does Will Ospreay moves. So,
Yeah.
But I mean, I grew up in the business kind of. The one mentality that I was always taught was, you know, originality is forgetting who you stole it from. So you can make because nothing is original. There's nothing you're going to do that you've created. So if you can just forget that and just pretend like you made it up, then, you know, you made it up.
CZ, I'm going to let you ask the follow-up question since you're a huge Trevor Lee mark.
Well,
really? Let's go.
I am, but my question wasn't with Trevor Lee. I mean, you mentioned ACH.
Yes.
And you had the privilege of being his first match in SCW this year. What was that experience like for you?
I was there.
Awesome.
I love that match.
It was awesome. I'm not going to lie to you. I felt like he went easy on me. And obviously I was his first match back, and I'm not going to sit here and say he was nervous or anything to wrestle me, because, like, you know, I'm nobody, but I think he could have went harder, and I wanted to, because I after that match I was like, oh man, I can't believe I kept up with ACH. And then I watched it back and I was like, well, I mean, we really didn't do anything though. Like, you know, we did some stuff and it was cool and it was a good time and the fans enjoyed it, but I've seen him go harder, you know, and I've seen him go crazier, and I want to see if I can keep up with the ACH that I knew in AAW, watching him and Trevor Lee go an hour, or watching him and, you know, whoever, you know, just go out there and just tear the house down. And I wanted to see if I can keep up with that. And I'm not saying he didn't give me that, but to no fault of his own, I just wish that I would have gotten a little more time with him, if that makes sense. Because you can only do so much with some stuff that you're given. and there are some circumstances that like we can't go an hour, we can't, do certain things because of where we're at in the card. So I feel like if we would have because we didn't have a bad position, but I feel like if we would have been given that main event, that and the time to really go crazy, and maybe if he would have, because he moved here for a little bit, and maybe we could have gotten the ring and felt each other out at the gym and kind of seen each other, and like him kind of learn that, okay, I'm not bad at wrestling, like I'm not going to hurt you or anything. So because I think he was a little nervous about he doesn't know me from Adam, so
Right.
It's one of those things where it's like, oh, I don't know this guy and I don't really want him to hurt me, I just trying to get through it, but if I could have kind of gotten there with him and let him know, like, hey, I'm good, I'm not gonna hurt you, I'm safe, and I was, I've been doing this for a minute, I come to the table with good ideas and all this kind of stuff. I feel like we could have done more, but I love that match. It's one of my favorites, and at the end of the day, I did feel like I kept up with ACH, and he said that he liked it, which is always the thing I've been worried about. If he likes it, I liked it, and the crowd liked it, so that's also good.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorites, especially this year, or just in recent memory in general. Just having there's only so many first, and being able to be his first back was very special for me, because then I can say, okay, well, I welcomed him back, and I didn't do a bad job either. So,
and that was arguably, Nick, you may disagree, you may agree, that was arguably one of the best matches in SCW this whole year.
I would agree. Yep,
I would agree too. Well, Shane's gonna agree, but I would agree too. I really would. I was there. I say run it back. I mean, I'm all.
I would love to. I would love to.
I'm all for running it back and seeing what else we can get out of it. Let's squeeze it a little more.
Yeah, I think so. Like him and ACH and Trevor Lee were kind of the guys that we kind of emulated all our style off of originally when we started wrestling. And I think I would rather run it back with ACH rather than wrestling. Like Trevor Lee is my dream match. I just don't know what we would do because I do all of his stuff. So, I mean, it wouldn't be very interesting. So it would just be me doing all of his stuff to him and him doing all of his stuff to me. So I think
you answered my next question right there.
Yeah. Oh, Trevor Lee's my dream match. And like, this sounds bad. And I'm sure if Trevor Lee does watch this, I love you. I think you're awesome. But I was kind of excited when he got released. I don't know. I mean, it sucked, as far as a job and money and everything. But I was like, I might get the opportunity to wrestle this guy, and like, without having to wait 10 or 15 years until I'm signed,
Right.
But I felt like it might have been possible. And don't get me wrong, I prodded. I tried to get a couple of, I pitched it to a couple of promoters, and they would reach out or not reach out or whatever, and see if it fit for their promotion or whatever. I tried, but it just never came around. But if I do get the opportunity, I'm gonna have a blast. Trevor Lee may not like it, but I'm gonna have a fun time. So,
all right, since you put it out there, Shane, Trevor Lee, if you are watching this show, reach out to me. CSTC Podcast 2022 at gmail.com. We would love to have you. Shane put it in the ether. I'm just capitalizing on it.
Trevor Lee, if you're watching, I'm sorry that I stole all your stuff. Forgive me.
Well, gentlemen, we're going to take a short break here. Pay homage to our fellow network shows. On the other side of the break, we have our weekly moment of focus with JT Energy, but we'll be right back after this.
For frequency's sake has you covered on all things sports. From the squared circle to the hardwood and the gridiron to the speedway, we've got something for everyone. Walk down the aisle with the boys from Card Subject to Change every Sunday as they take a deep dive into everything pro wrestling. Head on over to the hardwood with Doug Green and Watching the W each week for all the news from the WNBA. Want more insight from Pit Row? Check out the Green, White, and Checkered podcast where they give their insight on everything happening on and off the track. Need your gambling fix? We've got you there. Dan Hancock and Gotham Gambling will help you cover the spread with the Golden Ticket Show. Football more your style? Explore the waters of NFL DFS with DFS Deep Dive with Brian Craighead and Jordan Kernan each week. More into the science portion of the game? The Professor John Bush and Dennis Michelson take you into their science lab and dissect your week in the data lab. Need to know who to start last minute? The network's flagship show, For Fantasy's Sake, is here in a pinch. The fellas come to you live every football Sunday from 10 to 11:30 Central with the week's best DFS, gambling, and lineup advice. And wrap up your Sundays with Joe Winkle and Nick Brinks as they come to you live with educated ignorance, looking at all the day's action. Not enough football on Sunday? Not a problem. Kick your feet up at lunch on Monday and slip into the football lounge with Mark and Dan while they look at the week that was in news, notes, and more. For frequency's sake, you know what we mean.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show. You are tuned in to Card Subject to Change, the podcast by the fan for the fan. We haven't mentioned this yet this episode, so we don't get fired. I just want to say we're powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zuka of Country Financial. We are sitting down with Shain Boucher in the studio, but before we get back to Shain, we're going to toss things over to our good friend JT Energy and a moment of focus.
Welcome to a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy, and the Card Subject to Change podcast. You have a former opponent of mine, Shain Boucher, in the studio. And that's going to bring me to my moment of focus. And that's being thankful. Thankful for what? Thankful for everything. Be thankful for this moment. Be thankful for the people around you. Be thankful for the world that you get to live in. Shain Boucher, you should be thankful that you survived being thrown off a balcony. I should be thankful that I haven't seriously hurt Rip Studwell yet. So don't forget, be thankful. This has been a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy.
Obviously some animosity there for Rip Studwell. That's the second time that JT has called him out on the show. Rip, if you're listening, we'd love to hear your response. But Shain, JT mentioned the elephant in the room that has been here since you got on the podcast, and that is that flight off the balcony at Wildwood. And I just got to ask, as you're standing up there with Dante being ready to be hurled into the ring, what is going through your head?
Fear. That was a pretty fun day, man. I will be honest, and I will say that I showed up to that show pretty crabby. I was not in a good mood already. And I had been asking to jump off that balcony for a very long time because I can't, obviously, you can't just do it. You can't just, there's some things that are, you got to ask. And that's one of them. And, for the circumstances to arise, we had a scramble or it was a 6-man scramble, 6-man tag, whatever it was. Having enough people there and, I'm not jumping off through a table or, one person or anything like that. So having all those people there. But I was in a pretty crappy mood and I had been asking to do it for forever. And they would always say no whenever I asked. And I tried to always fit it in whenever I had enough people there to receive me, if you will, and then I got there and the idea was pitched to me, not in necessarily a way that I wanted to do it. I would have much rather just jumped by myself, but they wanted to throw me, and it pissed me off a little bit because I wanted to do it for so long and I wasn't getting it to do it my way. But you take what you can get. So I was kind of like yes and no all day where I was like, oh yeah, we'll do it. Just in case we don't want, we get out there and we don't want to do it. Let's do this instead. As a backup plan or, we were trying to come up with backup plans in case, I chickened out or he chickened out or, whatever. But I kind of looked at him and I went, you gotta make me do it. I was like, I might chicken out. I'm not gonna lie to you because you look up and you're like, it's not that high, it's 10 foot, 15 foot, and then you get up there and you look down and it's a lot. It's 20 foot, 25 foot. At least it looks like it is. So
completely different world.
Yeah, a different situation. So I was like, yeah, we just got to do it, just don't let me, chicken out. So, we get to the moment, and I have like a hold on him like this. So I think, where he's kind of got me by the hair, and I got him by the arm like this, and then, he does the deal, and it wasn't that scary. It wasn't bad at all. It was a good time. It was a fun flight. And then there's two people that kind of like saved me in that, Bruce Hamilton. Thank you. If you're watching, thank you. He was a big receiver for me. He kind of was the only one that, there's a couple people there that, caught a leg or caught an arm. He took the whole thing. I mean, I just hit him in the face with my whole body. And he just pulled me in like it was nothing. He's so strong. But also Dante, I was not indeed holding him like this. I was holding him like this.
Yeah.
I took a good chunk out of his arm. He was like, when we got to the back, he was like, what happened? And I was like, what do you mean what happened? We did it. And he goes, and he was just bleeding. I was like, I'm so sorry. I did not. It didn't feel like I was doing that. I thought I just had a normal, nice little grip on him, But I was scared. Apparently, I took a chunk out of him. So those two guys kind of got me through it. And I'm glad I got to do it. I won't do it again. I'll tell you that. But I'm glad I got to do it. In bucket list things, I suppose. So,
Is that the craziest thing you've ever done in professional wrestling?
I've done so much and so little at the same time. We're like, yeah, that's crazy. But, I've done, I wouldn't say I've done a death match, but, I've done, hardcore stuff, light tubes and thumbtacks and all that stuff. And to me, like, that stuff is way more hardcore than jumping off a balcony. I was doing that in the backyard on a trampoline or on a mattress or, whatever. So to me, that's just like, oh, I like to do that stuff. And it's, almost expected of me. But all that other stuff is way more hardcore than that. So
that's fair. Before we switch gears and move on to something, change topics, I got to give a shout out to you first of all, and to Rob Kammerer over at the MLW Confusion podcast. I know he's watching right now, chilling out in his hot tub full of pizza rolls, but he provided the video that we shared on social media, and that is the most viewed reel we have ever had on Instagram. We had over 750 viewers on that. So thank you for that.
That's what I do, man. That's what I do.
Shain, you're no doubt you're in wrestling. You have to be a wrestling fan, I'm assuming. What were some of the shows you watched growing up, whether it was on, shows you rented or shows that you had or borrowed that you'd go back and watch over and over again? What are some of those shows that stick in your mind?
Obviously, I watch Raw and SmackDown every week.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Main Event. I watched the Velocity, all the weekend shows. I watched everything. I mean, anything I could get a hold of. I watched Ring of Honor as a kid. My dad actually, not my dad, my buddy's dad actually he watched Ring of Honor. So that's the only reason I ever even got to watch it. But like, I watched everything. But the one thing that I watched on repeat, and I don't know if it was through, choice or what, but I went to a TNA show in 2011, 2012, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I thought Jeff Hardy was going to be there, and he wasn't. And I was very upset about that because I bought the Jeff Hardy package that was at the show, where it was like a Jeff Hardy drawstring bag and like a Jeff Hardy t-shirt, and then something else, Jeff Hardy. I don't remember what it was. And then it came with 4 TNA DVDs. And it was like $40. I bought all that for $40, so it was not too bad.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, it was a good deal. But it was, I can't remember all the DVDs, so forgive me if I get them wrong. But it was TNA 05, Against All Odds, maybe. TNA, what's the one? It was Jeff and Abyss in the Monster Ball. Was that Against All Odds? I don't remember. There was an X Division DVD, like Best of the X Division, and then there was, I can't remember the third one. But they had that, and I actually just did this this last Friday in a match just like this, where they would do like the battle royal or like Royal Rumble style, and then like when it got to the final 4 people, it would be elimination, or like a pin elimination. And I watched it on repeat, and like all the X Division matches with like AJ Styles and the Ultimate X matches with the cables and everything in the X. I always thought that stuff was so cool. But I watched those DVDs religiously. And I'm not talking about like I'd watch one, once a week. I would watch all 4 of them every day. And I wouldn't skip a single match. I watch it every day. And even if I wasn't watching it, I'd have it in the background because I just had nothing else that I really wanted to watch anyways. And that was my only form of getting wrestling besides the live, Mondays and Fridays, and then I watched TNA when it was on Thursdays at the time. Yep. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed TNA. My favorite, and I get my boys, they bust my balls about this all the time. And anybody I tell, they don't believe me and they think that I'm messing around. I think that the immortal Jeff Hardy is the best version of Jeff Hardy. Like the, the short hair, half blonde, half black, purple belt that had his face on it. I thought that was the coolest thing. And nobody else seems to like it. I'm the only one. But every time I talk to anybody about it, they always like, that's awful, like the music, the music, another me, they're like, yeah, he just wasn't a good heel. And I'm like, are you serious? I loved him, obviously, but like everybody hated him. It was just like, and like maybe it was me being young and going, oh, everybody's booing him, so that means he's doing a good job. Maybe they did just hate him and they just didn't want to see it. But like I always thought it was phenomenal, and I just thought he looked cool, in the black and the purple. Sick, dude. So yeah, but I watched that stuff religiously, and I would like be in the backyard like playing all their theme songs on my phone, doing their entrances or whatever.
For sure.
So all the TNA got sick. So
what would Shain Boucher, how would Shain Boucher fare in the X Division or an Ultimate X match? I mean, of all the guests we've had, I think that is right up your alley.
Yes.
I think I would do good. I think I would. My biggest thing, I'm at a kind of a point where I want to be good and I want to be the best. But on a personal level and on like a professional level, I suppose, I would want to think that I can keep up with those guys, and I think I can, but I would like to prove that I can keep up with those guys. And I've wrestled a couple of them, like I've wrestled. I mean, passingly, we had like scrambles where I did one thing with them, or a rumble where I did one thing with them, or whatever. Ace Austin and Trey Miguel, and like I've done some stuff with those guys before, and they taught me a lot, and it was very fun. And to watch them kind of transition into the X Division and just TNA in general was really fun. But I would like to show them how much I've improved since that was, because that was, 7 years ago, 6-7 years ago when I first started, and I've come so far and, crafted my own style that I stole from Trevor Lee. And then, I crafted all this stuff and came up with this character and done all this stuff and improved myself. And I would like for them to be able to see that and to really show that I can hang. That'd kind of be the main thing that I would want to do. Obviously, X Division champ and, all that kind of stuff would be awesome, but just to get the chance to show them that I can do everything they can do, maybe better. So
I'd pay to see that. I'd be in front row if I could for anything X Division with you in it. I'd be there.
Well, I appreciate it.
What are you watching now? What do you gravitate towards in today's wrestling world?
I coach at Black and Brave. This is kind of a setup to this story because I just think it's so funny. And all the kids that are in the class right now, every Sunday we watch NXT Level Up. Because to me, like, not to disrespect anybody or whatever, but to me, that is the bottom barrel of, WWE as far as like, actual TV stuff that they do. Because it's, Raw, SmackDown, or SmackDown Raw, whichever one you want to do, NXT Level Up, and to me, like, that's like if I were to get signed at this very moment, that's where I would start. I would wish I would start soon or further ahead, but if that's the bare minimum and that's where I start, I want to see who I'm competing against. So I like to watch that every week. And then I watch I try to watch everything, but I try not to watch everything. This sounds so hypocritical because I just said I stole everything from Trevor Lee, but I try not to watch too much. That way I can do my own thing, like, because I do feel like so many people are just emulating stuff that they saw Shawn Michaels do, or stuff they saw Trevor Lee do, or stuff they saw John Cena do, or whoever your guy is. It's like when you learn how to play guitar, they always tell you, like, don't watch your favorite guitarist anymore, because then you're just gonna be playing just like him. You're gonna do everything like him. You're gonna you're just gonna be a second version of that guy rather than being your own self. So, and the main thing I like to do is watch the shows that I'm on and see who's doing what, who's done what. That way I can do something different. But that way I can kind of craft my own style and, not kind of get into the shoe hole of doing Will Ospreay moves, if that makes sense.
I got to ask you a question. You used to have a set of, a full head of hair, long hair. What went into cutting the hair?
There is so much, probably too much that went into doing that than I would like to admit, but there was so many factors, pros and cons, and all that kind of stuff that went into me cutting my hair. So the first thing was I didn't take care of it. I didn't brush it that often. I didn't wash it probably as often as I should have. I mean, I washed it, but probably not as often as I should have. And then I just didn't really take care of it. It was in a bun all the time. I never wore it down unless I was wrestling. So it was always in a bun. And I don't know. I never liked the way I look with my hair down when I'm not wrestling. Like when I'm wrestling, you wet it or you'll, do whatever you do with it. But like with my day-to-day life, I didn't like the way I looked with it down. I thought I looked weird and I could never make it look how I wanted it to look because I'm lazy and I don't like to do hair stuff. And so that was kind of one of the things where I was like, it would be easier. And then I was like, well, everybody has long hair. It's kind of a trope a little bit, where wrestlers have long hair, and now it's even worse where wrestlers have long hair and a beard, and you get the Shawn Michaels comparisons and you get the Seth Rollins comparisons, or I'm not getting no Roman Reigns comparisons, but you get the idea. Guys with long hair, guys with beards. And it's kind of the same thing over and over again. I was sick of that too. I wanted to do something different and be something different and not just be kind of like long hair and a beard. And there were so many other things too, but then I kind of just got to the point where I wanted to do it. And I have like I'm not like, rich or anything, but I have like a guy that I get my hair cut by at a salon. I've been going to him for forever and he always did my hair and everything. And I was talking to him and he walked in, he goes, "Oh man, the hair looks great today." And I was like, "You're going to be real mad at me then if you like it that much." And he's like, "Are you cutting it?" And I was like, "I kind of want to cut it." So he asked me a couple questions. He asked me to show him what I wanted and like what I had in mind. And because he told me, he's like, "If I don't like it, like if you show me and it's not good, I'm not cutting it. Like you have real nice long hair. It took too long to grow and all that kind of stuff." So he's like, "You show me what you want and I'll think about it." So I showed him. He thought it was perfect. And after that, he kind of cut it short first, like just kind of like all the length off of it because it was long. It was like down to my butt, so like it was long. He cut all the length off to my shoulders and he goes, "You still want to do it?" And I went, "I don't know." And he went, "I think we should do it." And I went, "Yeah, we should do it." And then I kind of just closed my eyes and then he just did the whole deal, and then we went over to the sink to like wash it. And I like leaned back in the thing and he like did, and like I closed my eyes and I was like back in the cut chair and I was like, "Did you wash my hair?" And he goes, "Yeah, it was fast. Like we don't have to do it that much. Like you have short hair now. It doesn't take that long." And I was like, "That was so nice." And then I don't regret it even a little bit. I think it was the best decision I've ever made. And I think it makes me look better. Honestly, I'm more comfortable with it. I'm wearing a hat now, but I can go like I used to just wear a hat all the time, and now I just I don't wear a hat that often now. I feel good with it. I think it makes me more attractive. Not that I'm an attractive guy or anything, but it helps more than the long hair did. The ladies seem to sure like it.
There you go.
That's all that matters, So
that's all that matters. That's right.
Yeah, if the ladies like it, then you're doing something right. I did have like so many like women come up to me after I had cut my hair, like go into those first couple shows. I think I was more nervous for that, by the way, than I was like any wrestling match I've ever had. Like, how are the fans going to react to me cutting my hair? Like, are they going to care? Are they going to be mad? They're going to even recognize me or whatever. But then I got out there and everybody was like, oh, what did you do? And then afterwards, all the women would come up and they're like, you look so handsome. You were a beautiful man. And I was like, okay, we did it. We did it. It worked. All right. And if y'all like it, I like it. So, but it is very nice. It's nice to not have it in a bun all the time. It's nice to not have to, scratch all of it out when I'm brushing my hair. And then there's more stuff I can do with it too. So
Shain, we're getting close to that hour mark. And like I said, while we were off the air, try and be respectful of everybody's time, your time, our time, and the fans. Couple more questions though before we wrap up. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I don't obviously I have, the hopes and the dreams, you'd be signed. I see myself being somewhere, making money just wrestling, and, whether that's TNA, whether it's WWE, whether it's, AEW or, Japan or, whatever it is, like I see myself being there. But I'm also one of those, I was raised in the business, it's not real until it's there. So, just kind of do what you do. And, when it comes, it'll come. So I really just kind of look to the now, like what I'm doing now, what can I do now to make myself better? That way, when the time comes, I'll be ready for it. I don't really worry too much about, the next couple of years. They just announced that WWE ID stuff. That's really exciting. I think there's a couple of us here at Black and Brave that are more than ready for that. And then now it's just kind of getting in front of the right people. So, that could be a year, that could be 2 years, that could be 10 years. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm going to be here forever anyways. So it's off to the races. Like I said, I'm here. I'm a lifer. So whether it's indies, whether it's, signed, whether it's whatever, wrestling is the deal. So.
With Thanksgiving around the corner, Shain, I'm going to ask you, what are you thankful for as a wrestling fan? Not about your career, but as a wrestling fan, what are you thankful for in wrestling?
Thankful that there's so many options to watch. Like you can watch your AEWs, you can watch your WWEs, your TNAs, your MLWs, your NWAs. There are so many things that you can watch and you have access to now. I'm not old by any means, but like I said, the only way I had it was either through YouTube highlights or, watching TNA DVDs over and over and over again, So like the fact that you can just click onto anything and find it, you can watch probably a whole AEW show on Twitter if somebody posts it the right way, So there's just so much variety. I just wish that people wouldn't gatekeep it so much, choosing sides and what's better and what's worse. Because at the end of the day, there's good wrestling and there's bad wrestling. And there's going to be good wrestling on both shows, all 3 shows, 4 shows, whatever you want to say it is. There's good wrestling on each one. There's bad wrestling on each one. And sometimes the bad is better than the good. So or at least it's more entertaining. So I just wish people would just kind of accept what they like. And if they don't like something, don't comment on it. Who cares? Nobody cares about your opinion. So just keep it to yourself.
Right.
Shain, if we want to follow you on social media, where can our fans find you?
Oh, I'm very lucky. I have Shain Boucher all the way across the board on everything. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It is Shain Boucher, SHAIN, because I wanted to be different. Boucher. And it's on everything. So
awesome. Well, I feel like we just scratched the surface and we could talk for hours on end to you here.
I can go forever, yeah.
But so I'm going to throw it out there. Definitely want to have you come back at some point because I didn't get to ask everything that I wanted. But like I said, we're getting close to our time. But yeah, we would love to have you back anytime you want to come pop on and talk wrestling with us old folks.
Hey, part 2 whenever you want it, man. We can do it next week. I don't care.
Well, Shain, I want to thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast. That hour flew by.
It
yeah,
did.
I thought you said it was up. What?
But yeah, we will definitely visit having you back in the near future because I want to get into your work with the Hate Keepers and your work in Chicago. So I definitely want to hear more about that at some point.
Whenever you want, I'll tell you all about the Hate Keepers.
Nick, do you have any other questions that you want to ask before we wrap up here tonight?
Shain, where can we see you in the next few weeks, next couple months, where are you going to be at? Where tell the fans where you're going to be.
I'm at Glory Pro here coming up on the 24th. I'm at AAW on the 22nd. My lady normally just tells me where to go, so I'm remembering the best I can. And I'm at Iron Spirit Pro on December 14th. And I'm sure there's some others, but I'll post them. They're always on my social, so if you follow me, I will post them, and you will see them, and you can come see me wherever you want. I'll get my old lady to tell me, and maybe I'll tweet about it. So I'm awful at media, so
we appreciate you coming on. That, like I said, we've wanted to have you on for such a long time, and I'm glad we got you here. The door's always open. Can't wait to have you back. And of course, like CZ said, to talk about your AAW work, and of course the Hate Keepers as well. But thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it, Shain.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to come back.
Absolutely. Thank you all. If you have tuned into the Card Subject to Change, if you're over on YouTube, be sure to subscribe, give us a like and a share. Follow us on social media at CSTC Podcast. We are the podcast by the fan for the fan, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week right here on Card Subject to Change.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.